Thanks for joining thanks for joining me. My name is Robert Olive, and I will be making a presentation on how to complete a work order once it has been submitted and all the work at a new installation has been completed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go find the work order for Mr. Henry Morgan. We're going to put in all of these important data. We're going to complete the work order, and once we complete the work order, it's automatically going to create the customer in Wistmon, and it's going to do all of the invoicing and create all the service plans and start all of the activity associated with bandwidth shaping and managing that particular customer. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side in the Search Wistmon database, and I'm going to look for the customer named Morgan. I've completed the installation, which means that I went out there, I climbed up on their roof, I put the tripod on, I put it on the equipment. I took some pictures of those things when I got completed with those. I went downstairs and I did some simple baseline things associated with that installation, like I checked what the signal strength was, I ran a speed test, figured out what the uplink and the downlinks were, and from that information I'm going to complete the work order. In addition, I also hung on to little things like the IP address that was assigned to the CPE equipment on the roof, and I also grabbed the MAC address of the CPE equipment that was on the roof. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to double-click on Mr. Morgan. Oh, I got a sales contact and not the work order. I guess I ought to search for work orders first. So here is the sales contact for Mr. Morgan. Notice that it is red. Red, in fact, tells me that the installation has not, or the work order has not yet been completed. I can double-click on his name over here on the right, or I can go back down here to the little box and I can double-click that, and it'll bring up the work order. I'm just going to do it down here on the map. And so there's the work order. So I've completed the work order. The information on the customer contact information sheet should be consistent and still the same as it was before. If I need to change some of that information, or if he wants to change his username and password for the customer portal, you can do that at this time, or you can simply tell him that he can go to that location, use these usernames and passwords, and he can change that on his own on the customer portal. Customer billing shouldn't have changed unless he, of course, wants to change his credit card information or anything else that might be located on this page. Under details, this Mr. Morgan signed up for the residential basic service, but in addition, we also put a tripod on his roof. We used 35 feet more cable than is allowed for the basic installation, and we set up a wireless router. So in order to get all of those items onto this one first invoice, what I'm going to do is go down here and I'm going to add those items. So there was a basic installation. He gets charged for basic installation. Add one. In addition, he also gets charged for a cable expense, and he used 35 feet more cable than were permitted in the original installation agreement, and so he gets charged for that. He gets charged for a tripod expense because I put the tripod on his roof in quantity 1. And last but not least, we installed a wireless router at his location. So again, quantity 1. So when the invoice is actually created, it will prorate between today's date and the 1st for the residential basic service, and it will add each one of these items independently to the invoice so that all the charges are on one location. I'm going to go over to the technical data. I'm going to fill out the technical data. As we saw when we were doing the location on qualification, he can get service off of the Rendon Tower, and that comes off of DE05. It automatically inserts the router IP. This is the first router that's in line with the CPE heading back out of your network, and then this is the SSID for that device. We do have to capture the CPE IP address, 10.61.32.111, and we also have to capture the MAC address. In this case, it was 006F11AE21, and that's not enough, so we'll just go ahead and make it CC. Okay, so and then we can have the CPE device model. This was a Rocket M5, and that of course is made by Ubiquiti. Then we go back over here to this last tab called the Close tab, and we baseline the installation. It was a successful installation. The receive strength was -65. I pinged the gateway at 3 milliseconds. I pinged Google at 23 milliseconds. When I ran an uplink speed, it was 1508 kilobits per second. And the downlink, I'll just put a little space in there. And the downlink was 3 meg, which was right at 3072, again, or in this case 3 kilobits per second. The installation on the roof was a tripod mount on the roof. The CPE condition when I installed it was new, and I inspected the cable for all kinds of nicks and bends and cracks and those types of things. And so yes, I inspected it and I sealed all penetrations. Going back through, I can see that all that information is correct. The billing information is correct. The details for the installation are correct. I can look at the technical data, and all the technical data is correct, and the close tab is complete. There's no reason not to go ahead and send him an invoice and also go ahead and charge him for the installation. So once I click on send invoice and charge on the installation, I can go ahead and complete the work order. Once I complete the work order, it's going to do several things. First of all, it's going to send me as a technician a copy of the completed work order. 2, it's going to send the customer a letter thanking him for starting service with our network. And that letter is configurable by you. It uses simple HTML, and it will be available to you. We'll show you that in a different training session. But it will also load up all of the data into Wismon so that all the data is immediately available to anybody that's using it. So if the technician calls in and has someone fill this out for him before he leaves the site, or he turns on his computer or uses the customer's computer and completes the work order before he leaves the site, all this data will be transferred into Wismon, even before he leaves that location. Right now what it's doing is it's trying to process that credit card, and it's having some difficulty because it's not a gift credit card. But it'll be back here in a second. It's going to ask us a couple things. It's going to ask us if we would like to upload some photographs. If we have some photographs and they're on the computer that we're using for this completed work order, then we can upload those photographs into the customer section of Wismon Pro. If there are no photographs, and we simply tell it no, it will then show us a copy of the completed work order that we are in fact using. We're not going to want to look at that a lot of time. What we're going to do, as soon as this is complete, we'll go over and have a look at Mr. Henry Morgan and show you that all the data have been transferred for Mr. Morgan. So it pops up and tells us that the work order has been completed successfully. We'd like to upload pictures. At this time, we're not going to upload any pictures. But what I am going to do is that automatically it'll show me what the work order looked like if I want to print it and leave it with the customer. Or attach it to the check and take it back into the office, which is probably a better idea. And last but not least, what we're going to do is we're just going to go find Mr. Morgan and verify that Mr. Morgan has now, in fact, been added to the customer database. And here's Mr. Morgan. And as you can see, there's all the information for Mr. Morgan. We can look at his invoices and verify that the invoices do show the total amount of money that is required. I can open up the invoice by just simply double-clicking it, and if I print it, it'll show me what the invoice looks like that Mr. Morgan received as I was closing out the work order. So the company name up at the top, Mr. Morgan in the middle. It shows that Mr. Morgan, this is account number 79880, invoice amount due, and you can see there's the first basic installation charge of $199. There's a cable expense of $35 or 35 feet at $1 something a foot, $1.25 a foot. The use in the installation tripod was $49. Wireless router $79.99. So when it's all said and done, after I've completed this at the customer's location, he will have this invoice in his email to work from. Great. We'll talk about invoices and letters in a little bit later in the next training session. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you on the next demo.